Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Inside Lowell Daily Pulse, the Monday, January 20th edition of the Daily Pulse. Big day today here in our WellPoint studios in Lowell, Massachusetts, and of course, across the nation. First of all, today is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, MLK Day, as it's come to be known, and as we celebrate the life and the legacy of one of America's heroes, one of my personal political heroes. As I was kind of growing up, I read a lot about him and the movement, and quite a man. Quite a man, and really made a difference in the country, and did so in a peaceful way, whether you agreed with him or disagreed or whatever. Just the way his movement went about, I think we can all respect. So happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day to all of you out there. And of course, happy Inauguration Day to all of you out there as well. Today is January 20th. In just a few short hours, Donald Trump will once again be sworn in as President of the United States in Washington, D.C. And we're going to Washington, D.C. because we got a special guest joining us. Just want to quickly bring in my co-host for today's show here in the WellPoint studios, Greg Pappas, former City of Lowell elections director, longtime Secretary of State employee here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, former aide to Congressman Chet Atkins. And I still think you've got a CIA background in there that at some point you'll be able to tell us about, Greg.
I'm not going to admit it now.
Well, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
Gonna bring
Happy Martin Luther King Day and Inauguration Day.
Yep, happy. Two reasons to celebrate, at least for us. Some folks.
Oh yeah, I watched it. You were a little bit younger, but and then it hit me when I was a little older. He died at 39. It was oh my God.
Yeah, very young.
Wow.
Far too young.
Cause, yeah.
We'll bring in Mary Burns from Washington, D.C. in a quick moment. Just want to thank our friend Real Estate Ray Booten. He's our sponsor here of the Inside Lowell Daily Pulse. If you're looking to buy or sell a home or a commercial property in Massachusetts and New Hampshire, Real Estate Ray Booten is your man. If you want to appraise that property in both of those states, he's also your man. Find him online, realestaterayBooten.com. Thank you as well to our friends at WellPoint. WellPoint is the only health plan offering healthcare benefits exclusively to Massachusetts GIC members. At WellPoint, your whole health is their whole point. We thank them. We're going to thank the rest of our Inside Lowell podcast sponsors as well. But right now, let's head out to Washington, D.C., where we see the smiley face of Lowell's most famous Republican, Mary Burns, joining us.
Can you tell we're a little excited here today?
Ah, man, I haven't seen this smile on you for 4 years, Mary.
There you go.
Well, I'll tell you, we're very excited to be here. The whole atmosphere here is one of excitement and a new beginning for this country, not just so much for the Republican Party. But before I start, I want to just remember Martin Luther King Jr. This is a day that was dedicated to him as well. And we must also remember that Martin Luther King Jr. was a registered Republican.
Was he? Get out.
Yeah.
Yes, he was.
No kidding. The news media never told me that when I was growing. He was a registered Republican?
Yes, he was.
So, yeah.
He and his wife.
Right, Mary?
And his kids.
Holy smokes. Holy moly. Well, Mary is joining us. You were supposed to be standing outside the nation's capital with the background of the inauguration, and then they went and they changed the plans on you there because of the cold. So you're actually coming to us from your hotel lobby right now, right?
Yes, I'm in the Marriott at Metro Center, and I can tell you that we're now in the red zone. Became that when we arrived on Saturday night. And so my car is locked away somewhere. I don't know where it is, and I can't get it till sometime Tuesday. And the city is in lockdown, but everyone's excited, and everyone will be in front of a television somewhere at noon to watch the transfer of power. And we're very excited about it.
When you say the city is in lockdown, because you texted that to us yesterday, do you mean like literal lockdown, like stuff that is kind of unprecedented, or just a typical inauguration day security? Because you've been there. You were there in 2017, if not other years, right?
I was there in 2017. I was there for George W. Bush, his first go-round. And I'll tell you, it's just a different feel this time. But we're here and we're ready, and the city is safe, and the people are prepared, and the police have done a wonderful job of taking care of not only the president, elect and the vice president elect, but the people who came to watch this historical action today.
They said that they moved it indoors because of the cold, and there is extreme cold, and
Not for us.
right. At least there isn't about 6 inches of snow like I had to shovel just to get here this morning. But it just seems like what you've said. These aren't cold measures that are being implemented for you and everyone else. I can see moving Trump and Vance and everybody else indoors, but there's other stuff going on. We saw videos yesterday of Trump getting off Air Force One and getting into his motorcade. And those black SUVs had these little things on top that I'd never seen before, which I was then told those are like kind of scramblers or some kind of security measure for drones, correct?
Yeah, that's what they were talking about. They were drone scrambles. But if you notice, when he came down the stairs of Air Force One, there were no lights on him. There were only lights on the stairs, on the side of the stairs. And I noticed, I said, why are there no lights on him coming down the stairs?
Yeah.
Think about it. Did you notice him being lit up? No, you saw pieces of his head.
Right.
So we're not privy to it. I just know that they're doing their best to keep everybody safe today.
Yeah, Greg actually has an interesting theory based on some historical precedent, right, Greg?
On which part of it?
On how the swearing in is going to go today.
Oh yeah, I just I just think that they'll. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think that they'll. The vice president gets sworn in first. I think that they'll. When he gets sworn in, I have a feeling that the security's that tight, they might. Normally he sits and watch with the inauguration. They may remove him, take him to a safe location, and then do the president after.
Which was done before, historically, right?
I'm trying to remember who it was, but it might have been done before, yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case.
Well, Mary is going to have to follow the vice president wherever they take him,
the thing is, actually, she can't say, but he's going to be right behind her, right where she is now.
He's at church right now. I want to meet him after the mass.
There you go.
There we go. So you mentioned kind of the mood. Everybody's excited. Contrast that to 2017, where there were protests leading up to the inaugurations, right? You remember Boston Common, everybody with their pink knit cat hats and all that. There seems to be, while there are still some pockets of what I call Trump derangement syndrome out there, there seems to be a lot less. And I also sense that the Trump supporters aren't afraid. Like 8 years ago, we were supporters. Certainly, everybody knew me from the radio. But in public, you just you didn't wear your hats. You didn't show it openly because you didn't want to offend anybody, or you didn't want to. You didn't want to get beat up by the Antifa thugs who were kind of roaming the streets for a while. It seems different this time, Mary.
It's very different. People are not afraid to be a Trump supporter. People are out there openly. I mean, everybody out here has either a Trump winter hat on or a Trump 20, the baseball cap. And I mean everybody, sweatshirts, hats, you got it. And people are just roaming around, and everybody is just like, this is our guy. And we're happy about it.
Any signs of protest?
No, I haven't seen one protest.
I think the numbers of the results of the election showed the average person how much of the majority they're in. And what would you have, over 2,000 counties to 300, that he won. And then last night in Seattle, the Seattle police went out. I don't know if you saw that. Went out and I saw it on some, anyways, they went out and all those places that Antifa took over, they shut them all down and arrested everybody that didn't run away. No. That's been like that for almost 2 years. They've been controlling that part of the city.
I think the biggest thing from this is law enforcement got their power back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I think that's what this country has been looking for, because the police, a lot of them were perceived as the enemy, and that's not right.
Right.
They're the ones that we need every day to protect us, and they were perceived as the enemy by the press and others, and it's a new day.
Yeah.
How much optimism is there as when did you fly? Did you fly in yesterday or Saturday, Mary?
Oh, I drove in.
Oh, you drove? Oh, that's right. You said you had your car. My apologies. What's the mood in terms of optimism out there? Does it match some of the polls that we're seeing?
Oh yeah, it's higher than that. People who we ran into someone yesterday didn't vote for Trump, but she said she's very excited that he won because her bank account is very low.
There you go.
And that's how that's what she said. She says, I didn't vote for him, she says, but I believe he's going to help my bank account.
Yeah. Fascinating. And I'm going to try to be a little technically graphic here, and I think you'll be able to see this, Mary, but I wanted to call this up. That's the, let me save that one for a quick second here. This was a poll released by CBS News and YouGov. Now, CBS News, not exactly a conservative bastion or Trump bastion, but this is, how do you feel about the next 4 years? These are the overall numbers. 60% of folks feel optimistic, 40% pessimistic. Now, that's kind of in line with most presidents, but it's not in line with 2017. But, but the numbers that really surprised me is when they did the breakdown by age. Check that out on your screen right there. 18 to 29-year-olds, arguably the most loyal Democratic base throughout the last decades, right? 67% of them are optimistic. And then you go to 30 to 44-year-olds, 62%. So 2/3 of people 18 to 44 are optimistic about the future. You're still staying at 60% in that money graphic, right? 45 to 64. And ironically, it's the seniors, 65 plus, who are the most pessimistic. But even there, at 51%. Now, I don't want to call you two up, but you are, maybe a year or two older than I am. But that 65 plus, that used to be the greatest generation. They've since died off. These are the hippies, are they not?
And these are the hippies. And again, these are the 60s children. And they tend not to be Republican, but people have to feel more positive about what's to come than what we had. Last 4 years have been miserable. Young people can't buy a house. They can't afford college. They can't get a job. And this is the start for them. And I'll tell you, as of yesterday, Donald Trump saved TikTok, so he's got a whole new big fan base.
Yeah, I bet that 18 to 29 numbers up above 70 now. But it really is. Now, if you're, the one positive thing that a Democrat can draw from this, at least for the next few election cycles, is the age demographic most likely to vote is 65 plus, whereas the one least likely to vote is 18 to 29. That's been historically the case. But if these numbers do not shift and they stay this way for the next decade or two, the Democratic Party, as we know it, is in real trouble. And what I also noticed was CBS News did not release the race and black. What's the percentage of black voters who feel optimistic? Hispanic voters, which tells me those numbers are also very, very alarming.
And I think also that you could add 60-40. You can actually probably 70-30 is what it really is. It's just they're not going to give you the real, that's probably 70-30, the main one, and the other part of it, the 51% over the next 2 or 3 weeks with some of these executive orders, they're gonna go, wow. Then if he ever does the thing with the IRS, oh my God, you're talking a $100,000 a year person making 17 grand more putting it in their pocket, or a kid that starts at 50 and today they'd be putting 9 grand more in their pocket.
So, Mary, how realistic are some of the goals that the Trump team and the Republican Party have set out? They're trying to pass one giant bill rather than doing things piecemeal, and it's tax policy, I think immigration policy, it's a whole bunch of things. Is there optimism there where you are that all this can become reality, that whatever opposition they face from Democrats and maybe internally within the party can be overcome, and that the president will get a kind of a clean slate on his agenda right from day one?
Now remember, everyone here is a Trump supporter, but I'll tell you that the feeling is that he delivered before on his commitments, political promises, but he delivered, and they believe he's going to do it again. Things were getting better, and then COVID hit. And that kind of took away the steam from his agenda. And also he didn't win the election. However, now he's back, he's got a mandate, and he's going to fulfill it. And as he said, get ready for this afternoon, because he's got over 200 executive orders, and heads are going to explode somewhere.
Is that the up-to-date number, 200 executive orders?
200 plus.
Wow. Look, I'm not a big fan of government by executive order, right? There's certain checks and balances, but, This is the trend we've been going in. We saw it with George W. Bush. Obama took it to the next level. Trump had some, and then Biden completely, between the executive orders and the pardon.
Well, that's really the history of the country, though. If you go back to even before Roosevelt, the Congress used to recess and go home. They had to go farm, do their farms. In the 1800s, the late 1700s, early 1900s, they would only be in session in Washington. Then they take, they go back to their home, and the president was running the country with executive orders. So it's really an old historical thing, pretty much too. It's been done before. It's just they don't go out of session anymore, like the legislature in Boston. When I was down there, they prorogated every year in July after the budget. They haven't done that ever again, right, Mayor?
He said that one of his big things that he's going to do is try to incorporate in this bill some of what he's doing in the executive orders, but this is just to hit the ground running today.
Right.
But he wants to get all of this stuff put into law.
Right.
Okay.
And he wants a vote, too. He wants to see a voting pattern. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a number of things in there, and Greg and I will talk about it as we go a little further on. But while we got you there, Mary, the big news dropped this morning. In D.C., President Biden going out like we all thought, right? Like a thief in the night, issuing preemptive pardons to Anthony Fauci, Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger, the January 6th committee.
The whole police department of D.C.
Yeah, in essence, confirming what we've all suspected and what's been leaking out slowly, that Fauci knew more about COVID and probably engaged in criminal activity, and that there might be more to January 6th than we were told back in 2021. What's the feeling there? What is there anger at this, or is everybody so happy that today has finally arrived that they're going to just let the pardons go and fight that battle another day, Mary?
Well, I think there's anger, but it's not a surprise. Everyone knew he was going to do it. But why would you pardon someone who hasn't committed a crime? So he made them all guilty. In my eyes, they're all guilty, and they should be put in jail, but they're not going to be, and we move on.
Is there any talk about challenging the president's ability to give preemptive pardons? I mean, to me, this is a constitutional issue here, because if you can give preemptive pardons, now all bets are off going forward, right?
Right. I mean, there have been some lawyers on. Obviously, I don't watch traditional media, but on like Fox News, and they've been very clear that you cannot give pardon for someone who hasn't been charged with a crime. That's not what it was intended. Its intent was.
Right.
So let's see what goes on, and it will probably end up in the Supreme Court. Yeah. But again, they haven't been charged with a crime, but now they can't be charged with a crime, even though people died over COVID. And when it comes to General Milley, people died over in Afghanistan.
Not just that, what he said to the Chinese general. Mary.
And that was for mismanagement.
Mary, remember what he said to the Chinese general, his counterpart?
Right.
He basically warned him. He said, I'll warn you if we come to the defense of Taiwan.
Yeah. I mean.
Not good.
I just don't like the idea of being part of something that you haven't done.
Right, exactly. Yep.
All right. So what's your itinerary for the next for the rest of the day? You're gonna have to leave that. It's a beautiful hotel lobby, but they didn't put you up in the Motel 6 out there in D.C., right?
I'm in a beautiful Marriott hotel. I want to thank Laurie Trahan for the great tickets that are now my souvenirs.
Oh, wow. The Democrats are going to lose their mind that Laurie Trahan helped you.
Hey, that's what the Congress, member of Congress say you have access to the tickets.
Yeah.
And, I've known Laurie for a long time. But I'll tell you that right now the goal is to get over to the Republican Governors Association watch party. Mm-hmm. And I'll be there for most of the afternoon, and then going off to the Liberty Ball tonight.
Okay. So so the inauguration itself, it's taking place in the rotunda because of the cold. Pardon my tickle there.
Yeah.
But nobody else is allowed in it except Congress and the U.S. Senate.
Family.
So So you have to watch it in some kind of conference or ballroom, I would assume. They are saying there will be some kind of an inaugural parade / procession outdoors. Yes. So what that entails, nobody's really sure of. But do you plan on going and standing outside by a street corner, hoping to get a glimpse?
Well, well, where we're going is right on the parade route. So it'll be happening right outside of the window.
Oh, there you go.
So you can look out, so you won't even have to go outside into the cold.
No.
Wow, that's
And I'm from Lowell, Massachusetts. I'm okay with cold.
yeah.
Congresswoman Trahan took very good care of you.
Yes, she did.
We're going to get her in trouble with her leftist base.
Yeah, but you know, like Mary says, Lowell people, we always do things for each other, no matter what party stuff. So that's how we're brought up.
You know, Republicans and Democrats do not hate each other like people think we should. We don't.
Yeah. Right.
We just hate politicians. We don't hate the donkey or the elephant, right?
I mean, the person's, you know.
Right.
Well, hey, listen, I just found out I'm 59, and I just found out that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was a Republican. You guys blew my mind.
I didn't know you didn't know that, huh? You know.
That's true. True fact.
I also didn't know you didn't. Mary didn't tell you she got the tickets from Laurie. I know.
I didn't know that. You guys keep it secret.
I didn't think it was a secret. I didn't think it was a big deal, but it was nice of the Congresswoman to get them for her. But she offered them to her. She didn't just, So, right, Mayor?
The tickets are offered to members of Congress because they host the inauguration.
Right.
And that's where you get your tickets from.
Right, the House in charge of the Capitol, yeah.
Now, can I ask a question here? I don't know. You can dodge it if you'd like, but you, because of your strong support of Governor Baker, you were basically Charlie Baker's point person in Lowell and Greater Lowell. That he never came to the area without you by his side. So you drew the animus of the Republicans in Massachusetts who were kind of in charge during the Baker administration. The Jim Lyons, the Kool-Aid cult is how 𝐈𝐶 calls them. And they accused you of being anti-Trump and anti-Trump agenda. And can it be pointed out that you are in the nation's capital right now for the inauguration and you are smiling more than I am, if that's at all possible? Can we point that out?
You can point it out, and I'll tell you, and I'm not going to dodge anything. Yes, I have known, I met Donald Trump when he came to Lowell. And then I was up in New Hampshire with him at a couple of events. And then I was with him in Boston. And then I was with him in other places. And my connection to Donald Trump is Corey Lewandowski, another Lowell kid, who I knew when he ran for state rep against City Manager Golden. And I supported Corey, and that's where I met Tommy Golden, was because of Corey. So that's how Lowell rolls.
And before that, he was
a happy family.
And before that, Mary, he was an intern at Stevie's office when he was a rep.
Yep.
I remember going into his office when Stevie sat next to Stevie Lynch, when Stevie Lynch was a rep.
Stevie being former state senator Steve Panagiotakis.
So he was a state rep, and there was this kid who was very quiet. He's like, listen, he was Corey. Yeah, he was so quiet. Yeah. And then that was him.
So I've been talking to Corey, and he and I are going to connect, and we're going to be, he's going to be helping me with some things in Massachusetts because we really don't have anybody.
Yeah. A lot of folks are concerned about, what happens to Massachusetts with their rabid never Trumpism in the governor's office, in the U.S. Senate, and pretty much all of the congressional delegation. Folks are legitimately concerned. Some of these projects, the Cape Cod bridges, the bridges and canals in Lowell and whatnot, that they're in danger. You're going to work on that, Mayor.
I'm going to do what I can. My city comes first, and that's just fact.
Yep.
All right.
That's it.
Well, listen, I know you got a lot to get to, and it's a celebratory day for you. Thank you so much, Mary, for taking time out of your schedule and to join us here on this podcast and giving us a little flavor of what's happening in D.C. as we prepare for the inauguration, the re-inauguration of Donald Trump as U.S. president.
The re-inauguration of President Donald John Trump, number 47.
Right.
It's a very, very small club.
It is one of the most exclusive clubs on the planet, right?
Yep.
Yes, it is.
President Cleveland.
Yep.
And Euclid's 47.
Yep.
There's something always special about that stuff. Good to see you, Mayor. Talk to you later, hon.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a great day.
Thanks. You too, Mary. Stay safe and stay warm out there.
Go Trump.
Go Trump. All right. Mary Burns joining us from D.C. there. I'm glad technically we were able to kind of pull that off, bounce around with Zoom and whatnot. But you're watching the Inside Lowell Daily Pulse. I am your host, of course, Teddy Panos, coming to you from the WellPoint Studios. Want to thank our friends at WellPoint for helping to make this podcast possible. At WellPoint, your whole health is their whole point. Thank you as well to the Inside Lowell Daily Pulse sponsor, Real Estate Ray Booten. If you're looking to buy or sell a home or have it appraised in Massachusetts and New Hampshire, or a commercial property for that matter, Real Estate Ray Booten, licensed and certified to do so in both states. Find them online. realestaterayBooten.com. Thank you as well to our friends at the Washington Savings Bank. Banking that feels like home. So much so they gave me this coffee mug that I'm not going to tell you what's in it, but it's a nice mug.
Yeah, it is really. Yeah, it's not a cheapie. Yeah,
no, not
nice.
Yeah, and it's got a little blue on the inside.
I was thinking of stealing it on you.
Someone stole my previous one, so they had to replace it for me. But make the switch now to Washington Savings Bank. TMI Properties, quality and value at every price point. Find your perfect space with TMI. Mahoney Oil, providing warmth and protection to Greater Lowell since 1925. 24-hour emergency service for those of you who need it. We got a cold spell coming up, so make sure if you have an oil burner in your house, you're filled. Mahoney Oil, contact them. Get yourself ready for the polar vortex that is moving on in. The Greater Lowell Community Foundation, the newest member of our Inside Lowell family, in improving the quality of life in Greater Lowell through strategic philanthropy. Francis E. Preventure Insurance, the agency Greater Lowell has counted on since 1982, and by the Massachusetts Pirates, bringing all the hard-hitting action and excitement of arena football to the Mill City. And with that, I bring back my co-host here for today's Inside Lowell Daily Pulse, Greg Pappas, former elections director, City of Lowell, former state elections official under Bill Galvin for 30-some-odd years, congressionally, to Chet Atkins.
But I met Billy when we started in 77, so 40 years, yeah.
You were just a kid at that point.
I was 19, he was 26.
77, that you graduated high school pretty much around that time, didn't you?
I was at Suffolk going for government, which is what most of the reps did. And what you did was you took all your major courses up front, which is funny. We did it and then you had your electives, so you could intern across the street because you got all the majors out of the way. By the time I was a sophomore, I had them all done. I just had electives my last 2 years. Yeah.
You ever been to an inauguration?
No, I have not. It's funny though, considering it's weird. I've never been to one, but I've been able to meet 5 presidents. It's weird. Yeah.
But you know a lot about it. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if I can tell this story.
Well, part of it's school, yeah, from experiences and stories from other people, yeah.
But we talked with Mary Burns about how she was also there in 2017.
Yeah.
And you actually called her or texted her and told her that you told her exactly what she was doing, and she had no clue how you would know because nobody knew that she was in one of the limousines.
Yeah, she was in a limousine. Yeah, right.
This is why I think you're CIA.
No, just friends. You just have friends everywhere. That's what it is. I mean, it's like I said, even with the show, I had a couple friends call me from South Carolina, Kentucky that saw us on the show. Mm-hmm. They said, "Oh, you're on with Teddy, yeah." Which you got to get her on right after this because she's going to get her to tell you the stories because that's what you want.
Oh, Mary?
Mary's going to have a ton of
once
stories.
she comes back from Lowell.
Because that's what you want, the stories. That's the stuff that you get to find out how things really happen,
And speaking of stories, we talked a little bit about, some of the unprecedented security measures. I think this is only the second one that's been moved indoors. Right. I know Reagan's was. I think Reagan's did second one, but he did go outdoors eventually.
Eventually, yeah.
But it seems like what's happening here is this isn't about the cold.
This is like Lincoln.
This is about security, and it's clear to see. And you were telling me a story off air about the Lincoln inauguration and some of the insane. Well, I don't want to call them insane, but some of the severe security measures they had to take. Share that story for us about 1861.
Well, it was he hired Pinkerton Detective Agency, which is well known, and it became like the Secret Service for many years into the 1900s. But and don't forget, this story goes through Baltimore, and we lost Ladd and Whitney right here from Lowell, getting off the train as soldiers in Baltimore. They got killed just getting off the transport spot for the Civil War. But what happened was they knew they had to get them into Washington, and going through Maryland was going to be a problem, or Baltimore. And because the stuff was already heating up over the Civil War stuff. And what they did was came in very late at night, unhooked the presidential car, which is the one car with an engine on it, unhooked the engine, hooked the car up to with him and his family inside, and hooked it up to a pack of horses. Had the horses drag them down the railroad tracks because no one could hear the horses like you'd hear a steam engine, right? To the other side of the city, on the south side, hooked him back up again when he was just over the border to the train, and they got him into Washington that way, and nobody even knew. No one, they didn't. They knew that if the train came through, they'd hear it, and they were probably waiting for a train. This way, they didn't hear the steam engine or anything, so they got them through. It was a security move.
Fascinating.
Yeah,
Fascinating
yeah, it was.
story.
Yeah, very,
So, and this was, mind you, and you can take your headphones off now. You don't have
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm thinking Mary. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't need to. We won't be hearing Mary anymore. Plus, I got got my hat head from shoveling earlier today. But this wasn't 1865 after the Civil War.
This is
1861.
Yeah, his inauguration.
His inauguration
right.
was done.
Because there were threats against him. He had threats. He had threats against. There were known threats. They didn't know. I don't know who they all were, but there were definitely people involved with the Confederacy that were already formed, that was already in that situation, So, yeah.
So they basically, I don't want to say derailed, but they changed the train transport back to 1861. That's how you transported across the country. They had horses pulling him to an area where they felt secure enough
to hook up another engine.
Hook up another engine to it.
Start it up, make a racket. I mean, look at the diesel engines in Lowell here, right? Think about it. The trains here in Lowell, now you know where I live in Drake, off Lakeview Avenue. At night, we can hear them idling.
I can hear them from my house early in the morning, 4 or 5.
When they hit this engine, I mean, they hit the horn, you hear them everywhere. But you can literally, like on a cold night last night, you can come outside and hear the trains idling from Lowell. Yeah, so I mean, those things make a lot of noise. And they knew they were going to probably target it, but they didn't hear the steam engine coming, so they didn't move their operation. Horses don't make any noises, pulled it about 2 or 3 miles, and hooked it back up to one startup and went into D.C.
It's a shame to me that this is where we are as a country. The types of security, and again, they're going to say it's the cold, but what we're seeing, and on the heels of all these drone things, the last few months, that we are so divided as a country politically that you have to go back to like Civil War times and do strange security measures like they did.
Yeah, I mean, but the divisions too aren't as even as you think, and I've been saying that all along. Now you're saying it. I really think it's like 80-20. I just don't think it's 50-50. I just don't see it.
It's certainly a different feel this time around than there was.
You're in Massachusetts. You're in ground zero of every. We have all. I mean, look with Nixon. He lost only Massachusetts. The only common thread we don't have with any other part of the nation is we got tons of universities here. So you have to look at what we've been being taught in universities. I mean, I went to school at Suffolk. When I went to school at Suffolk, you had all the professors were like Dr. Archon was an assistant secretary under Eisenhower. Judy Dushku was United Nations, Eliza's mother, the actress. Yeah. That's when I met Eliza years later. She says, "You Greg Pappas?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Eliza, nice to meet you." She goes, I knew you when I was a fetus." I said, "Yeah, that's what I told just to tell people," because she was pregnant. Judy was pregnant with her. Me and Adi Bernard, who was the governor's chief of staff at the time. But anyways, and then go into John Berg was Senator Proxmire's chief of staff. So they were real people. Now you go down and look at Suffolk. There's no more government degree. It was the only one in the United States. Now it was all hands-on budgetary process, stuff like that. Now it's all pretty much like, I talk to kids that graduate there, and I go, "What did you learn?" I couldn't use you in the State House. I couldn't use you in I could walk in like I did with Nick. I walked into a rep's office as an intern 25 hours a week as an assistant, not an intern, but before the aides were there, and me, Adi Bernard, we already knew what we were doing. We already knew how the patients put bills together. We already knew budgetary process. We already knew. They don't know that stuff today.
Crazy. So just a few short hours. It's 9:36 a.m. when we're recording this. This is going to drop at noon on today. It's Monday, January 20th, Inauguration Day, Martin Luther King Jr.'s holiday. You heard Mary say that 200 plus executive orders are ready to be signed the moment Donald Trump takes the oath of office and gets into the Oval Office. I want to talk about some of them because obviously the immigration ones, folks are, kind of losing their mind. He said going to Chicago, New York, and then Boston to start doing some getting rid of the criminals at the very least. There's some controversy over the fact that Chicago being first leaked. And they kind of supposedly are thwarting those plans. I got a hunch that it was leaked to let people know, leave now and you don't have to worry
because 70% of them will realize that they need to go because, I mean, I still have a neighbor waiting for their family member for 9 years coming from Kenya. A great family. I mean, they've been waiting 9 years. I used to do some of the immigration for Atkins. Kenya should only be like 3 years, but because of all the messed up stuff caused on the border, it screws up the process for the people who are legally trying to come here. And we're one of the few countries in the world that allow legal immigration. There's not a lot of countries that do. I mean, Europe just got forced on them. They didn't. You can't. Up until 10 years ago, when you were in France, you had to be a citizen of France, born there to be a citizen, or you joined the French Foreign Legion. No way were you coming to France.
Yeah, a lot of that changed with the European Union. I was back when Trump was first made immigration a big thing in 2016 during the campaign, and then got sworn in. I went and I looked Canada.
Right.
As woke as it is, in Canada, you must still have a financial sponsor. You must speak the languages, in other words, French and English, and you have to have a certain skill. You have to be useful to them economically. Folk, they don't teach you this stuff in school, which is stunning to me. But and there's a reason for that, and we're kind of starting to see it because the West is so desirable, the United States, Europe, etc., that you will be overrun with people, and you cannot feed, house, clothe these folks without basically bankrupting yourself, which we're finding out firsthand here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Personally, I think Donald Trump is doing Governor Maura Healey a favor. She should be sending thank you notes.
I'm sure
she can complain publicly, but privately send a thank you note. She's making her job at these hotels much, much easier.
Well, I'm sure she wants it off her plate because she got elected not to be in immigration, but she got elected. There's projects. I know Maura as a friend. I know the stuff she wants to get involved in, like this thing the University of Lowell's done. Mary got because she's Mary is the the chairman of the building committee for this whole state education thing.
Yeah, the UMass.
That's what Maura wanted to come in and do. She didn't want to be handling all this other stuff. I'm sure Kim didn't want to either. But you look back at immigration in most countries is vicious. There's some laws in some countries. There's one country, ready for this, $100,000 fine if you get caught crossing the border and 4 years in jail. You know what country that is?
No.
The Vatican.
The Pope had a statement today saying it's a travesty or whatever he said.
You can get it on the net. It's the Vatican.
They got enough gold and silver stored away at the Vatican to feed some of the world's hungry, don't they?
Stop. People are tired of lies, and they're tired of being told lies, and they're tired of two-faced policy things. They want the truth. And that doesn't serve well when you're doing that. And you're telling people this, but you got that, and I get it. You can't have 1 million people walking in. But the bottom line is, how do you turn around when you got, come on. So.
Before we get off we get into more executive orders. There was a security thing that I forgot to mention.
The 2,500 officers?
No, this was about securing the president of the United States. Okay. And you were telling me a story off air about John F. Kennedy Jr., JFK Jr., another president whose life, threatened to shake things up, and his life ultimately JFK had to pay the price for that. But you told me a story about the only spat that Jackie Kennedy said the only time she ever heard her husband yelling as president.
Really upset.
What? Share as much of that story as you can.
Yeah, well, it was told to me by a family member and two family actually.
Your family member or a Kennedy?
No, one of the Kennedy family members. Actually, now that I think about it, wasn't just one. It was another one who I used to give a ride home to when sometimes. But anyways,
you're gonna make me with Patrick Kennedy was
Joseph.
Oh yeah, Joe Kennedy.
Joe. Yeah. Joe was. Great guy. And he knew. He said, I'm out of here. I can't get anything. Justin didn't believe me. He's in the backseat of the car. He goes, I'm telling you, I'm done. I'm not running again. He knew. He said, I can't get anything done down here. Joe Kennedy. I like the guy as a friend. But anyways, so the bottom line was it happened the morning of the assassination. They were in the hotel. And the story went that the Secret Service opened the door and Vice President Johnson came in. Now, I'm not saying he knew. I'm not saying he ran the assassination. We're going to find out a lot of stuff, but I think he knew.
One of the executive orders is Trump says he's going to release all this stuff.
And I think he knew about it, but he wasn't running it because the ones that were running it, it was a big operation. And I think he knew about it and it would serve his purposes, believe it or not. So I think he kind of knew. It's kind of because the stuff keeps happening. So this scenario happens. He goes into the bedroom with the president, President Kennedy, and Jack. He said they're yelling. And she is Jack yelling, screaming. That's it. And the thing was bad. I don't remember. And he leaves, stomps out the door. The Secret Service, let's go. So Jackie goes in and says, what was that all about? And basically what he said was he was upset because I have Governor Connolly riding with me in the first car, and I wanted Governor Connolly, not Senator Scarborough. He wants Senator Scarborough in the car with me.
Yarborough.
I mean, Yarborough. I'm sorry, I'm saying Scarborough.
Don't make Joe Scarborough.
No, I know. Yeah, no. Senator, I knew that too, Yarborough, because I knew him when I was a kid. Senator Yarborough, I told him, no, the governor's ride with me, and Yarborough is going to ride with you. Now, if you go back in hindsight and look at stuff, President Johnson didn't particularly like Yarborough, and Yarborough basically might have been one of the reasons he couldn't run again, because he was talking about all the crimes that were the people that went to jail that worked for Johnson, the things that he was probably involved with. That he openly said when I was a kid that he murdered 13 people. He was involved with it, right?
And so, JFK was knowing that they couldn't stand each other. He still made them ride together in the motorcade. Right. We're talking the morning of the assassination. November 22, 1963.
So Connally, who's friendly with Johnson, and the whole thing ends up later on. The president gets shot, and Connally does too. So it almost sounds like Johnson knew about it supposedly, because it seems pretty much like he did. He wanted Yarborough to get shot, but Connally does, and then Connally later on breaks off his friendship with Johnson. Nobody really knows why. He actually said he was going to support Nixon, and he did, before Johnson was out of the race, when Nixon was talking about running. Big split in Texas. I know this also from people who are from Texas and my family that's down there. And
I love a good conspiracy theory, by the way. But
it makes sense.
The fight that morning was confirmed to you by two members of the Kennedy family.
And basically, and family in Texas from Elizabeth's side, my wife's side, said that Yarborough's going. I mean, Connally basically kind of said, you kind of knew this was going to happen, and you still let me get. Once I could have called the press, I broke my leg, I felt sick, I didn't want to stay in the car. But he couldn't warn him that he knew about what was probably going to happen. So he ends up getting shot instead. See how things happen? This stuff's going to be very interesting, how it all comes out, and the involvement. And then Johnson was also the one who put on the Warren Commission, what's his name, from the CIA that Kennedy fired.
Allen Dulles.
Allen Dulles. Yeah, Allen Dulles.
Who we now have learned since further Kennedy assassination investigations, the CIA had its hands all over that.
And he's fired. He's a citizen. He's sitting out white. Kennedy fired him. And that morning, there's a picture of them standing there, and they're looking at each other. And Joe Kennedy told me it was true, because his father came home. Allen Dulles told Jack Kennedy, do you know who I am? And Bobby Kennedy, Attorney General, said, Jack, you're the president, I'm the Attorney General. He's asking us this? Joe Kennedy confirmed that to me, that was true. And I think Ted did too at some point. Mike Earl would know more about that from Lowell, because Michael knows a lot of this stuff too, because he was very close to the Kennedys. You can't make this stuff up.
Crazy stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff, but it's true.
Stuff. Yeah. All right. A couple more executive orders that the president has said he released today. First, he's going to have direct the United States military to go finish the wall. Now, hopefully they have enough steel to do it, since Biden was selling it off. But I understand the governor of Texas was buying it.
Yeah.
And whatnot. But he's also, he did something else that involves military action against enemies, and that is, he says he's going
border protection is the military's job, but go ahead.
It should be, but apparently we can't have troops on the border, according to AOC and others. But the cartels, the Mexican drug cartels, who are helping flood our streets with fentanyl, but also who were running these border operations, sneaking migrants across, using people for whatever reason, stealing money, sex trafficking, etc. They are going to be declared by President Trump later on today a terrorist organization.
Right.
Now, some folks would say, you're declaring cartels a terrorist organization. Come on, what are we doing? But you were saying to me that this gives certain powers that you don't normally have to fight these cartels.
Right, and actually some of the cartels are probably better. I mean, they're probably more organized militarily, armor-wise, than some like ISIS was. These guys, they're actually. They're really intel and everything.
There are mayors, there are senators, whatever in Mexico who are terrified of crossing the cartels.
And basically, they can say what they want, but the president of Mexico runs Mexico City and maybe the areas down by the vacation areas. She has no control over most of her country. She knows that, but she won't admit it. But she might admit it. But the bottom line, once you name them that, they're the same thing as Al Qaeda and ISIS. So basically, the only ones, police don't deal with them now. Now it's Army Rangers, it's Delta Team, it's Navy SEALs, it's the U.S. Navy, it's the U.S. Air Force, and they'll push them all the way down and clean out the whole country if they have to. But the other thing is,
what can the military do that a regular law enforcement, be it FBI, U.S. Marshals,
technically, if you're naming them a terrorist group, then it's a war. It's a police action. They can go in and kill them like they do in Iraq and Iran, like they're shooting Al-Qaeda. They're shooting
No Miranda rights when you arrest them.
No, there's none of that stuff, right?
They go to military courts, right?
Even if they do that, I mean, you end up on the battlefield. They don't. Like, can you imagine World War II? You said to Joe, put your hands up, and American soldiers, you got the right to remain. Are you kidding me? It's a war. They're going to go in and clean up. I mean, I suspect that we'll send troops into what Mexico's okay, and they'll go in and they'll do that. But the other thing is, you end up with that Guantanamo thing again, where they take the prisoners and what I'm saying is the stuff that they're dealing with. You could, if you're a drug dealer and you're coming across, like they caught that car on 495 there with all the fentanyl in it. The state police did a great job. To me, that guy gets turned over now as part of the cartel. He's not going to he can get arrested. Marshall's going to come grab him and say, nope, you're part. This is you're working for an enemy of the American. That's now a war. There'll be those guys dealing drugs. I'd be really careful because they can end up, being taken in by the U.S. military now, not the police, not the judges, not the lawyers. So that's what I think is going to happen. That's what I think that says.
Color me cynical about how if it'll work or not. There's so much money. My understanding is that for every drug dealer that gets arrested, there's 10 waiting. Because
if the supply is cut off and there's nobody living in Mexico anymore, good luck.
But it'll be one to watch. Right. And I want to kind of use that as a segue to our final discussion today in Massachusetts and New Hampshire. The battle of the war of words now between New Hampshire Governor Kelly Ayotte calling out Lowell and Lawrence, and Mayor Dan O'Rourke firing back with a letter he sent to us here at Inside Lowell. We published it on Friday. It was about collaboration, not antagonism, something that you'll see the story there. But we did get some feedback from our discussions last week on the Inside Lowell Daily Pulse, and also that story. Barry from Lowell says, I'm from New Hampshire, but consider myself a Lowellian. I agree and applaud this. This was about the State Auditor Diana 𝐷𝐻𝑒𝐿𝑒. Apologies. I applaud the state auditor. She's only following the law that the state legislators need to be held accountable. Way back in the 70s when I took auditing, it means reviewing internal controls. Massachusetts needs to get rid of the Billy Bulger mentality, where he was from a small district but was so powerful because many feared his criminal brother. We did a podcast last week with the former state rep, state senator, now current state auditor Diana 𝐷𝐻𝑒𝐿𝑒.
That's
my talked about this.
Good friend of mine.
Very,
a very good friend of mine.
Allison Lowell chiming in about the Kelly Ayotte thing. If Lowell were as protective of its citizens and taxpayers as Governor Ayotte is of her state, would we be having homicide suspects from Milwaukee in our city? Right.
We just arrested another one from Baltimore. State police, not the Lowell police, was one of the towns around here. Another guy from Baltimore was up here.
Yeah. So there's so a lot of this is crime, people jumping back and forth, drugs. Governor Ayotte, what do you think about Governor Ayotte kind of blaming Lowell and Lawrence dealers for her state's drug problem?
I think she's been advised that that's the case, and I be honest with you, I think she has been, and I'll tell you why. Because again, a friend of mine who's married to my cousin's daughter, my second cousin, if you want to call her. I don't want to put him in a situation, but he is a big. He used to be. I guess if I say too much, I don't want to put him in. He's like one of the top police anti-drug guys in Manchester, and he grew up in Lawrence, and he worked in a nearby city on the border. And for years, they've been almost 90% of the problems they had. They're arresting people from Lawrence in that city and the city up there now. And I don't know so much about Lowell, but definitely Lawrence.
Okay. Well, this harkens back to Governor Paul LePage or Greg LePage back in 2016, blaming, he was the governor of Maine, he was blaming Lawrence especially, but he did also mention Lowell for the drug trade in his state. Isn't that kind of counterproductive, though? Because, look, the drug issue isn't originating in Lowell. Now, are some drug dealers, distribution centers in Lowell and Lawrence? Sure. But they're also probably in Springfield, in New York. Oh, yeah. You can probably follow that chain all the way down to the border. And, I do know, and I worked in Manchester for a while. Yeah. Look, Manchester is in pure. I'm pretty sure that that's a center that, as the drugs are being transported, piecemeal, they're not going to drive from Mexico directly up to New Hampshire or Vermont or Maine. They're going to make stops along the way. Manchester is one of those stops as well. And did the people originally live in Lawrence but now live in Manchester? You've seen Manchester recently.
Oh, yeah, I was just there the other day.
They got nothing to brag about.
No, but Lawrence, even when I was at Homeland doing stuff at Beamer, that was always a port. I never ever heard Lowell as being one, never. I don't think I'm not privy to, I'm privy to a little bit more, but I never heard Lowell being bantied around by people on that level, state level. Definitely heard Lawrence, definitely heard Springfield. Pittsburgh, not Lowell. So she's wrong about Lowell, definitely. I would think she has something. It's not even close to what Lawrence has been doing.
I mean, I think you see a lot of those folks bounce around from all these different cities when they get in trouble with the law in one city or one state, neighboring state, or as far away from Milwaukee, right? I mean, clearly it's troubling that somebody from Milwaukee who's wanted for the homicide decides, all right, well, let me try to find safety somewhere, and sets up shop in Lowell, Massachusetts. That's a problem. Whatever allows that to happen, we need to kind of get a handle on.
Yeah, I mean, whatever does allow that to happen. Who knows? You have to get down to particulars. Could be somebody they knew. Could be just the size of a city. They're looking for a small city. Massachusetts is the most populated out of the New England, well, close to the New England states, I would say. Yeah, we are. You got to, there's a lot of reasons why, but I really don't believe Lowell was ever considered a center. So I don't know where she would say Lowell for, but I could see, like I said, Lawrence, Fitchburg, Springfield. Yeah.
Interesting. All right, we're gonna cut it off there.
Okay,
we've gone about 50 some odd minutes. Thank you to Mary Burns for joining us from the Ritzy Marriott. Did you say Bonvoy? Marriott Bonvoy? Is that what
something
you said?
Like that? Yeah, but you got to get it back here.
That's expensive. I could tell just by the lights that were hanging.
Oh, and she pays for it. Don't believe me. Mary, she's her own lady. She's done very well with a company.
But we're excited. We're excited to have Mary join us, give us a little flavor, and of course you with your historical reference there, the Lincoln inauguration train story,
I found out fast.
The JFK LBJ stuff. As somebody who really got hooked on some of these JFK assassination books in the 80s and 90s, hearing that story sends kind of chills down my spine.
It's just bizarro because you just never, you would never think that these things were going on, that America wasn't like that, but
But the Kennedy family knew. Obviously, Robert F. Kennedy knew it, right? RFK, and he paid the ultimate price in '68.
Ted
I'm going to guess Teddy knew all this stuff, right? And but even now, RFK Jr. knows it because he's been mouthing off about it. You talk about a guy who's going to need some strict security.
Right, but I'll tell you, I like what he did already. You already got how many food companies are getting rid of red dye number 5 and yellow dye?
Yes.
They're right about that. He's right about that stuff. You work with what you have you can work with. That's what you do with people. If you don't agree on this part, then we do agree on it. Let's work on this part first, then we'll try to figure that out later. He'll get that done. Our food is terrible. I mean, everybody's getting cancer or whatever. But anyways.
Clearly a new day in the United States of America.
Yes.
January 20th, 2025, Donald Trump. Noon is, right, the swearing in?
They swear the vice president first and the president 12:01.
All right. And your prediction, which we're going to see if it comes true, you believe that perhaps J.D. Vance gets sworn in and then gets moved to a different location?
I would think they would. If they're doing all this other stuff, it's just like those points on the cars. They're telling you they're drone things. It's probably some quantum computer thing with a new frequency they can communicate. They're not going to tell you what those are, but they're new.
Clearly security measures that we have not seen.
Right. They're not, in
a long time.
Yeah, never seen. But I really think Vance, I don't see why they wouldn't do that. I'm not the only one who probably thought that either. But we'll see.
All right. Greg Pappas, thank you so much.
Thanks,
always good to have you.
Same here. Fun.
We got to bring you back. And one of these days, we're going to get you to admit that you had, if you didn't work for them, you had dealings with the CIA. I know.
Well, we always did because we had to work with them in Congress. But,
I forget that. That's right.
I told you, Cols's number 2 guy was a guy from Lowell. Your father knew him. We all knew him. Greek guy from Lowell, number 2.
Greek guy from Lowell.
Yeah, I had to meet him one time. Oh, yeah.
Always comes back to the Lowell and to the Greeks.
I had to meet him at Tatsius's Diner. Yeah, he was number 2. Incredible guy.
All right.
I'll tell you that story.
That's a story for another podcast. Thank you, Greg Pappas.
Yep.
Thank all of you for joining us here on the January 20th edition of the Inside Lowell Daily Pulse. For the rest of this week, Joe Reddy's going to join us tomorrow, talk about some things happening in Chelmsford and elsewhere. Joe, ran for Register of Deeds, so he got to know all of our communities in Greater Lowell very well. On Wednesday, we'll have a Lowell City Council joining us, either Rita Mercier or John Dakota. John's my fallback. I think we're going to have to go to him. Councilor Mercier, I don't believe, is going to be able to join us. Real Estate Ray Booten will join us on the 23rd, Thursday. Lots to talk about with Ray, including brokers' fees. It's a hot news topic here in Massachusetts, addressed by Governor Healy yesterday. And then on Friday, the Pod Squad, Batch, the Hyphen, Mike Bacigalupo, Michaela Hondas McCarthy. They're going to join us as well. Who the hell knows what we're going to be talking about? But hey, every day here at Inside Lowell, the Daily Pulse drops at noon. You can watch it at noon. You can watch it whenever you want. As we like to say at Inside Lowell, news, information, and sometimes even entertainment on your schedule, not ours. As we also like to say here at Inside Lowell, if Lowell is your home, this is your place. Till tomorrow morning, everybody stay safe, stay warm. Happy Inauguration Day. Happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day to you as well. Take care, everybody.